You found Michigan's retirement coach, Mike Douglas.
Let's talk about this first situation. There was a gentleman, 65 years old. He wrote into an advice column on marketwatch.com saying that he's been pulling about 10% of his IRA out to do Roth conversions. But since we've been seeing the market continue to be on this record run, the market's been up over 20%. His balance also continues to go up, Mike. So, I mean, listen, let's be honest here. Nobody's crying for this guy. This is a good problem to have. But
this is real problems.
Right. Real problems. It's a good problem to have, but a problem nonetheless, because he's trying to get his money detaxed and he feels like he's on a treadmill. He just can't get ahead. What would you tell somebody in this kind of situation?
So let's kind of be clear about what's going on. He has like a 401k type account or a 403b, a pre-tax account that he says, I want to convert it to Roth. But the 401k is growing so much that he can't get ahead. He has, every time he tries to convert.
As far as getting his money detaxed.
Yeah, he wants to get it over in the Roth. He wants to get it to be tax-free for the future. But the market's doing so well, he just can't keep up. Mm-hmm. And this is a common story for those who pick a random number to Roth convert. I sat with some clients, Randy and Kara. And when I first met with them, they came through and I said, have you talked about Roth? We start talking tax strategies. And they said, yeah, we convert about $15,000 a year. Mm-hmm. I said, that's a great number. Why are you converting that number? And they don't have a reason. They said it seemed good. Like that. All right, well, that sounds like a good number. And that's the way most people do it, by the way.
Okay.
They do it because they figure out, well, I guess I'm in this tax bracket, so I can do $15,000 and stay in the 22% bracket or whatever the number is. And so that's what they do, and they convert it. And then the next year, their 401k says you have more money. It's they're kind of no closer to being tax-free in retirement, but obviously both accounts go up and nobody cries for over gains. So I think one of the challenges is you have to look at your life, how many taxes you're expected to pay over the next 20, 25 years, and build a strategy around that. So for people like Randy and Kara, when they came in, as we were talking through their specific situation, I said, why only $15,000 a year? And they said, well, I thought there's limits and I wasn't sure how much I could do. And I don't want to pay any more taxes than that. So, and those are all fair things that most people feel. Mm-hmm. So we went through and mapped out the taxes for the next 20 years of their life, 25 years. And a lot of times people they map out their investments. You know, they put it in a calculator that says, oh, I'll have this much money at age 85 or 90. They may even go through and say, I should be able to take out this many dollars per year based on the rule of 4%, but nobody ever maps out, I'm scheduled to pay $382,000 in taxes over the next 20, 25 years. Nobody does that. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that's one of the most important things we should be doing. How do we make sure we know how much we're scheduled to pay and minimize that number? So for Randy and Kara, we looked at it and said, all right, if you do $15,000 a year, you are scheduled to pay about $550,000 in taxes over the balance of your life. That's on a $1.1 million IRA.
Okay.
We went through and said, if we use a more active tax strategy than just doing $15,000 a year, if we use a strategy that is more intentional and when you see the long-term benefit, it makes sense. We converted heavier for a few years. And now they will be completely tax-free by the time they're age 78 in the future. And at the same time, they will pay a total of about $250,000 in taxes. So we were able to get rid of a couple $100,000 in taxes they'll pay over their life.
Because the way they were doing it before, they were projected to spend over $500,000 in taxes, is that what you said? And now with this new strategy, you're getting that down to $250,000?
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
And the whole thing was just proactively doing tax planning.
Yeah.
We said, we're not going to just pick 15,000. Let's look at it. We ran the numbers out. We said, all right, well then by the time you're age 78, you'll never pay federal income taxes ever again. None on your Social Security, none on anything, none on your withdrawals. We cleaned it all up. That requires some long-term thinking to make short-term decisions. So that's what we did for Randy and Kara. If you're out there listening and you say, I've never looked at taxes this way, I've never thought of it as a 20-year strategy. I normally only think of taxes as the collateral damage of my spending, and we don't want to think of it that way. Mm-hmm. If that's you, give us a call, 616-512-2127, or reach out to us at michigansretirementcoach.com. And when we do this, we will walk through just like Randy and Kara. Some taxes are optional. So for them, we opted out of taxes in their late 70s and 80s, and we chose to pay some of them now. And it's a much better long-term plan. So number one, you have to use long-term thinking to make your short-term decisions.
Yep.
Number one, because I don't know what the taxes will be in the future, but I can opine that they will be higher. I can use a whole lot of historical data and a lot of current data to say, I think taxes will be higher in the future at some point. So what should we do? Consider paying a lot in taxes right now so you can't be taxed in the future. That's the number one thing. Use long-term thinking to make short-term decisions. Number two, don't pick a random number. Have a reason for the conversion. Have a reason for the strategy and have a reason for the adjustments, because it's your life that's affected by it, not the advisors and not the CPAs.
Right.
If you don't know the why for the plan, then you'll constantly be frustrated. So when we built it out for Randy and Kara, I said, I just want you to see the long-term effects of no action. And then again, it's their money. I'm not suggesting that they do anything crazy or whatever else, but it's your money. You should keep more of it. You should build a strategy that says, I don't pay as much to the government. And when we walked through it, initially it was like, wow, I'm supposed to pay more in taxes. Why would you recommend I'm paying more in taxes this year? It's a terrible idea. Well, when you use a long-term thought process, then you have a reason, not a random number. So for them, okay, great. If we do this and we stay the course, even with the high rate of return in the market, we will be tax-free by age 78. And on top of that, whenever something happens to us, the kids get the money tax-free. So number one, use long-term thinking to make short-term decisions. Number two, don't pick a random number. Have a reason for the decision. And then number three, you have to know when your ROI is, your return on investment is, for tax planning to work out in your favor. Because in the same way that when you make an investment on something, right? If I buy a house and I put money into it so that way I can sell it in a few years, I have to make a certain amount of money back for it to have been worth it, right? Well, in the same way, if you're going to do tax strategies and I'm going to pay more in taxes right now, in a weird way, I'm behind schedule until it catches up. So there is a time frame. They say for Roth conversion, it could take anywhere from 8 to 12 years to make your money back, depending on how you're invested. So is it worth it at my age to do tax strategies, to do Roth conversion, to do trust conversions or things like that, living inheritance models? There's a lot of different things you can do for tax strategy that will benefit you and your family. We just have to know when the return on my investment comes in, not the rate of return on the stocks you buy, but the return on the decision to do tax planning inside your portfolio. So when you're making the decision to, hey, I want to have a proactive tax thought process. I want to pay less in taxes over my life. So that requires me to be intentional about paying taxes now on certain things, using unique strategies. It takes time, typically 5, 7, 8 years, maybe 10 years to get your money back. But once you do, now for the future and also for the end of your kid's life, it's tax-free money. So just know the time constraints on it and know how it makes sense. Now, people are listening and they're saying, this is a lot. Tax planning's a lot and it's kind of confusing and I don't know if it's worth it. That's a great question to be asking. Is it worth it? Does it make sense for me and my spouse and my kids and maybe my grandkids? I don't care if it worked for your last client. I don't care if it worked for the person who's coming in after me. Does it make sense for me and my family? That's the conversation we need to have.
Yeah.
What makes sense? What is your appetite for taking care of taxes on your own terms? The IRS will come deal with your money at some point, but we can choose. Do we do it on our schedule or on theirs?
Yeah.
Let's use the tax code to our advantage. Let's become active planners in this space. So if that's you and you say, I want to know, number one, if it even makes sense for me, and number two, how we would go about it, give us a call and I'll have that conversation with you. 616-512-2127. You call in. We have a team member who's waiting to get a time on the calendar for you and I to speak on the phone, to talk through your plan, about 30-minute phone call. Hey, what is your family going through? What does this look like? Let me answer your questions and see if tax planning makes sense for you. At the end of that call, you'll know, hey, maybe I should look deeper into this, or it's not for me. And that's okay. But at least you know, and you have peace of mind that, you know what, I'm doing the right thing for my money and for my family. So if that's you, give us a call, 616-512-2127, or you can reach out to us at michigansretirementcoach.com.
All right. Besides tax strategy, Another problem spot that a lot of us seem to be missing is having a proper spending plan within our overall savings plan. In fact, if you ask the question, what's the most common mistake people make going into retirement? There's a financial coach by the name of Stephen Chen, and he was telling GoBankingRates.com that it's been his experience. He sees the biggest mistake people making is that they don't have a spending plan. And it's not just about the monthly number. It's also where the money is coming from. So also having a withdrawal strategy. Do you agree? How do you approach this problem?
I think this is a major problem for people who are good savers.
Really?
Yes, absolutely. Because you don't become a spender just because you retired.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you save, a lot of people come from different places where they say, well, I save because of this. I save because of that. One of the questions I like to ask in our first conversations is, why do you have as much money as you have? So if someone has saved a lot of money, say, why? Why do you have this much money? Well, because it made sense and this and that. Or, well, because I came from nothing and I went through a tough situation and this and that. And as a result, I had to scrape and claw. I've shared this story before about a woman I'm working with. She had been through a really hard time, had become a widow very young, raised kids, and really had to fight and claw for everything. So now that she's retired, she's deathly afraid of spending money. And that's fair. And it's a real reason. So why are you a saver? Because I had to survive. Okay, great. Other people are savers because they're just opportunistic. And they said, yeah, if I put money in the market, then my company matches, and now I'll have more money than ever in retirement. And that way I can live off of it. So everybody has a different reason why they saved. And when they retire, now we have to find the right reasons to spend money. What do I want my charts to look like the rest of my life? Well, I had Don and Laura who came through. They were savers. They're not spenders. And they both had been through a lot of stuff in life, been through some divorces, been through some things. And when they came through, they said, I can't stomach spending money because I'm afraid that I'll run out. It's not that people don't want nice things. It's not that people want to drive a busted car. It's not that people don't want to go on vacations for the most part. Mm-hmm. It's typically because if I spend, I may screw it up and run out of money. So it's not a life-based decision. It's a fear-based decision. So we need to work through that. And again, it's a lot of people. A lot of people feel this way.
Yeah.
So you can either keep living like that and end up dying with more money than you ever lived with, or you can have a really good intentional withdrawal strategy, not just how much I want to take out. Like it's like the article said, not just my magic number, but also what accounts do I pull from and what are the tax consequences and all that. So all these things matter. Mm-hmm. But for Don and Laura, all that mattered to them was not the spreadsheets, not this and that, not that. How do I know that I'm not going to run out of money as a result of living the life that I've been dreaming of living?
Sure.
So when we went through with them, it took time. And I said, let's talk about all the scenarios, right? Because the thing about a saver, especially a scared saver, they come up with very creative bad scenarios that could happen. Mm-hmm. And they bring them all up in the meeting. And they're always saying, well, what if this happens? What if that happens? Mm-hmm. You know, what if the market crashes? What if the dollar disappears? What if we don't even have income tax? What if, all this stuff. And we work through the what ifs, right? Now I can only put so many things into the software, right? I can't run Armageddon scenarios, but I can say what happens if these crazy market crashes, if the taxes go up, if long-term care gets more expensive, if one of us dies young, if Social Security gets cut. These are all real things to plan in. So when we went through with Don and Laura and said, all right, if Social Security gets cut by 30%, here's how you still live your life. If taxes double, if the tax rates double, here's how you live your life. If one of you dies young, here's how the other one lives their life. So we went through all these scenarios. And as you have confidence in the results, now we can spend. But even for them, I ran all the scenarios and it wasn't quite enough. So we had to go and set up some automatic, systematic, and they said it was enough in the meeting, right? I said, yeah, absolutely. I'm okay with it. So then we start sending them paychecks every so often. Mm-hmm. They say, don't send me anymore. I don't want to. They start getting nervous again. So we set them up with some dividend strategies that the payments came out every month, no matter what. It didn't hurt the account. It just kept on paying.
Okay.
Well, all of a sudden, when that paycheck shows up every single month, you start to get more comfortable spending it.
Right.
Because it's not that the market has to do well for me to get paid. Now it's a matter of, that paycheck comes in and I'm going to use it for this. So it took us about 2 years to make them really comfortable with the process. But It's 2 years out of 30 years of retirement. So it was a good investment. And now they are living their best life. They're still not spending crazy because I could never get them to, but they're enjoying things more. And again, there's a lot of you out there that have felt this way. Well, I'm afraid I get it. I get it. And we help people work through that process every single day. So if you want to help understand how to maybe enjoy your money more and worry less, that's when you should give us a call. 616-512-2127. Give us a call. Someone will get a time set up for you and I to talk on the phone and just to have this conversation, an honest conversation about feelings, finances, family, faith, fitness, all the stuff you want to cover. How do we live this life we've been dreaming of? That's what we'll work through. 616-512-2127. I think people forget there's 3 things that really can change your retirement spending. Number 1, understanding the phases of life you're going to go through. From the day you retire to the next 10 or 12 years, it's the must-go years. Everything you want to do needs to be accomplished in those years. Then after that, we go into the might-go years. Well, if I feel like it, if I'm healthy, if my kids go, whatever, then I'll go on that trip. But otherwise, I'm not going to. And once you hit the won't-go years, 78, 80, 82, you're just going to sit at the house and do your standard stuff all the time, and you will not spend this money. I see it happen all the time. So understand that. Number 1, must go, might go, won't go years. Know where you are and know how to build a strategy. Number 2, automatic scheduled payments can help you spend with more confidence. When those dividend checks show up every month or the annuity payment shows up every month, I feel way more confident spending that money. Lastly, number 3, you will never feel comfortable with spending money if you just have an account and a formula like the rule of 4%. You will only begin to feel confident when you can look at a plan that says, here's how I get paid every month the rest of my life, in good markets and bad, in good Social Security and bad, in regular taxes or high taxes or low taxes. Here's how I still live my life. That is what a financial plan from a financial planner looks like. It is a detailed map that says, here's how you live comfortably in good times and bad, or if it's just right. If that's what you want, a little confidence, a little conversation, and some comfort about the future, give me a call, 616-512-2127. We'll have the phone call, talk through and answer some questions and see if there's anything we can do to help you along the way. 616-512-2127 or reach out to us, michigansretirementcoach.com.
There was this gentleman they were writing about. His name's Robert. He did what a lot of people do, Mike, because a lot of people are told to do it. Wait to file for your Social Security benefits, because if you do that, it means you're going to get a better benefit in a few years from now.
Guaranteed. Yeah.
Right. So Robert did that. He waited till 70 to file for Social Security, and he regrets it because he said the bigger checks are nice, but it comes at a cost that he did not see coming. Robert put off bucket list trips thinking that he would have more money a few years later, like so many recommend, but in fact, his wife passed away before they could enjoy the money. So more of what the article said about his feelings now. One, he said, I waited until 70 to claim Social Security because every expert in article said it was the smart move. If I could do it over, I'd have claimed earlier and used those payments to make memories while we still could. Healthcare and daily expenses went up faster than I'd planned for, and having those extra years of Social Security income would have helped. Also, the stress of second guessing every year, should I wait? Should I claim? It was more draining than I realized. So the regret for Robert goes far beyond what happened with the loss of his wife. I mean, there is multiple levels of information here. What are the lessons that we here in Grand Rapids can learn from Robert's experience?
I think that we want to avoid generic advice.
Right.
That's the biggest thing, is there's this ideal of like, there should be an answer for when I take Social Security. There should be a perfect answer. And there really isn't. The truth is, when you need to look at your life as a whole over the next 30 years, your investments you have saved, the income you want and desire now, and then figure out what makes the most sense. Most of the time when we run Social Security illustrations for people, we say, all right, here's why it might make sense at 62. Here's why it might make sense at 65, 67, or 70. And then from there, we just try to make the most educated guess. I tend to lean on getting it a little sooner, because you're not depleting your assets. You're also not guaranteed tomorrow from a health standpoint. And if you wait till age 70 to take it, you have to make it past 80 to 82 to get your money back. I just think that that's a long time to wait.
Yeah.
So I think that's important. We did have some clients who came in, Susan and Dave, they were married, getting close to retirement, and he wanted to wait till 70, but she wanted to claim it early, and it became a conflicting story.
Yeah.
You know, she couldn't see the justification in waiting, and he couldn't see giving up 8% growth per year, you know, for nothing. So they were with what we always coined the term big box firm, and they just kept being told that waiting till 70 is optimal. Optimal means on a spreadsheet, it looks the best, by the way, because we run our plans to 100, you wait to 70, so it looks better on the spreadsheet. But there was no context for life goals. So the biggest thing is when you help someone sit down and say, what do you want to accomplish? Well, I don't want to work to 70. I want to retire at 60 or 62 or 65. And then we're going to travel. And then we're going to RV. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And you start looking at the bigger picture. It's not about the spreadsheet. It's about what you want to accomplish. So waiting till 70 and depleting their investments didn't make sense for Susan and Dave. We said, if you're going to retire at 62 and you want to go do these things, maybe we should turn on your Social Security. They didn't have pensions coming in. It was just their investments and their Social Security. We walked through their financial and lifestyle things, their taxes, spending needs, bucket list goals, longevity, all that stuff. We were able to find a balance for them to claim strategically while still taking meaningful trips. So it's not always both of us or none of us. It also can be a matter of, all right, well, let's get this one going. Let's get a spousal benefit. And so there's strategies there. And that's what we did for them, because we have to make sure that we're not depleting all your savings so you can get 8% more maybe someday. And then someone gets sick or dies, and all of a sudden we never got the money back from Social Security that we paid into it, because it is an actuarial game. So I feel like there's a big thing there. This is where it can get confusing for a lot of people and stressful, and we don't want it to feel that way.
Okay.
So if Social Security is one of the biggest bugaboos of when do I start it and how do I get it going, if that's the conversation you'd like to have and walk through, give us a call, 616-512-2127, and we will help you understand the pros and cons. We're not going to tell you when to take it, but you can understand the pros and cons of Social Security at different ages based on your situation. So that's 616-512-2127, or you can get us at michigansretirementcoach.com and set up a time for us to get together. And I think this is a good point to kind of remind people that when you help with Social Security, it's non-revenue generating for the advisor.
So
right?
Life Plan Financial Design, you're not making money off of Social Security strategy, yeah.
No, but I think it's a critical piece. So when you do go to these big box firms like Susan and Dave, the reason you get a generic advice and just say, hey, wait till 70, just that way you don't have to deal with it.
Because they're not making any money off of it.
That's not what they do.
Yeah.
When you're a CFP, a certified financial planner, when you're a true fiduciary, the details matter.
Yeah.
And working through when you take it and why you take it and the consequences either way, that's part of the process. We don't make any money from Social Security, but if we have a client who does things the right way that makes sense for their family, it creates great, long-lasting relationships. So if we talk about why it's stressful, because delaying, it's the most grass is greener. I have this fear of missing out on growth, but also fear of missing out on the money I could be getting right now.
Yeah.
One of the scenarios I talk through people with is, how much per year do you give up by waiting?
Okay.
Now, again, if you're still working, you're 64, you're not done working, you're going full time and you're still earning, $60, $80, $100, $120,000 a year. If you take Social Security, you're over the income limit, so you shouldn't be taking it. But if you are actually retired and we go through and say, you're going to give up $22,000 a year or $24,000 a year to get an extra $800 or $1,000 a month, right? So if you give up $24,000 a year, because you say, I'm not going to take it at 62 or 64, I'm going to wait till 70. So you give up on $200,000 of income almost by waiting till 70. But I get an extra $1,000 a month. Okay, well, it's going to take you 15 years or so to get your money back. So if you can make it to 85 or whatever the numbers work out, right?
Yeah.
So you're giving up real money. And I think that's important. Also, you can take that Social Security benefit, and if you don't need it, throw it in your investment accounts and let it earn interest. You can get 8% on that money. Let it go invest. The difference is this. If you take the money and invest it and then you die, at least there's something left for your spouse or your kids.
That's right, because that's another point, is that when you pass on, generally speaking, you can't leave your Social Security to your heirs. You've paid into this system for how many of your working years and nobody gets nothing.
There's no cash death benefit on Social Security.
Yep.
And even in the situation of a spouse, if your benefit is greater than your spouse's, they do get to keep yours, but they lose their own. So there's still an income loss.
Right.
So I like checks that clear better than checks that are promised.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I feel the problem is. We're being promised greater checks in the future, knowing full well that there is a Social Security funding issue coming down the road.
That's another thing.
We are on the tracks to this collision with Social Security funding. 2032 is the last number I think I saw that, hey, we're going to have a problem cutting these checks without incurring more debt or more fake money being printed or whatever it is. So I guess here's the lessons we can learn from Robert's experience, the guy from the story, or even from Susan and Dave, is that the pain of second guessing every year that Robert went through is not good. Like, make a decision and let's live with it and be happy and move forward. But when you retire without a full plan, that's the problem. Robert from the story, not from our client experience, but Robert from the article, he didn't have a plan. Mm-hmm. He just knew 8% growth if I wait till 70. And then every year he'd say, what should I have done? Well, that's what happens when you don't have context for the decision. Mm-hmm. I don't have a plan that looks at taxes, estate planning, risk, my income, all these different sources. Why? Because I just go to my big box firm. They tell me what my rate of return was per year and what they think I can take out for income. That's it. And so when you go to those places, and that sounds like, isn't that enough? No, because if the market crashes, how does it affect your income? If the market does well, how much do I leave to my kids? What are the tax consequences? Are there tax strategies I should be using to get more out of this benefit? Or am I stuck paying a certain amount of taxes? They will not tell you how to deal with taxes at the big box firms. They're going to say, get a CPA and go do that. And your CPA is going to say, don't pay extra taxes. And it's this vicious cycle. Around
you go, yeah.
Yeah, and you're left chasing your tail a little bit. So don't let the annual should I or shouldn't I, because there's no comprehensive plan, be the issue. Yeah. Another great lesson is with Robert's story is that we're not promised tomorrow, right? So all it takes is one, as bad as it sounds, one cancer diagnosis or one this or one that. Then we always go back to that old Chinese proverb that says a healthy man has 1,000 wishes, a sick man has only one. And the reality is that the older we get, the worse our bodies do, right? And I feel that at 40, I'll be almost 42, I feel that now versus when I was 30. And when my sons and I go out and play basketball and the next morning they're walking around like nothing happened and I'm limping around the house because we played basketball for 2 hours, right? My body is worse off than their 15-year-old bodies are when it comes to basketball. In the same way, every year we have a little bit worse and a little bit more attrition, a little more pain. And so we're not guaranteed the future. So why are we delaying something that has no death benefit on it? Why are we allowing the government to keep our money longer, not knowing if I'll get the full boat back? So I think those factor in. And when you work with a tax-aware strategy with a CFP, when you work with a fully comprehensive plan, it's just so different than calling a call center or an 800 number and asking the Fidelity guy or whomever, like, hey, what should I do about this? And they say, I'm not an advisor. I'm just at the call center. I'm here to help you if you want to make a trade. That's not a plan. So if you're nearing retirement or if you're unsure when to claim Social Security, that is what the conversation with us looks like. Calling a local person here in Grand Rapids who will help you figure out what makes the most sense for you and your family, not for the big box company that you're talking to. Give us a call, 616-512-2127, and we'll get a time set up to chat on the phone and just say, hey, here's what it looks like. What fears, what concerns do you have? Let's see if we can help through that first and then look at what a whole plan looks like. 616-512-2127 or reach out to us at michigansretirementcoach.com.
We've opened up 5 spots on the calendar. We do that every week just for radio listeners. So be one of the first 5 to call right now. Put a time on the calendar for this initial 30-minute phone conversation. Just you and Mike. It's a no fee, no obligation initial conversation for you to ask some questions. He can give you some answers and explain to you how they might be able to help you figure things out when it comes to your retirement income and Social Security strategies. 616-512-2127. You can also go to michigansretirementcoach.com or call us right now, 616-512-2127. Fear of doing things wrong, worry about FOMO, and all the other things. There's just lots of anxiety that goes in, unfortunately, that goes into a time of life when it should be a time where we're finally relaxed and enjoying ourselves. Continuing with the conversation about fear, the number one fear in retirement, it remains the same. Study after study, year after year. Retirees are afraid that they will run out of money. However, what's interesting is it's actually creating a new problem. And I know that you've seen it, Mike, even though somebody has saved well, because of this fear of running out of money, they don't spend in retirement. And therefore they don't, well, a couple of things. They don't enjoy their retirement. People will pass away, leaving behind more money than they ever had or used in life because they were afraid. So how do we build strategies? How often do you see this? Clients that won't spend because they're afraid. And then how do you help them get over it?
I think that the fear of making a bad mistake is more prevalent than people realize, and they feel like they're in a silo. Like, I'm the only one who feels this way. In reality, everybody does. Mm-hmm. That's why the studies show us the number one fear is retiring or is dying with no money, not making it all the way there.
No, not
That's
dying, is living with no money. I'm alive.
Yeah, living with no money. But yeah, not realizing how long you have, because there is no crystal ball that tells us.
Right.
And I think that that's one of the things we have to make sure we don't live in fear. And I always go back to, do you have a good plan that says, here's what happens in this situation, that situation? You know, we had another couple, John and Mary, when they came through, they had right around $1 million saved, and they had Social Security benefits. But one of their big fears was, we don't want to be a burden later to our kids. Mm-hmm. And that was a concern. Now, some people tell me, hey, listen, I raised these people. They can hang on to me at the end.
All right.
Right. If I need to, I'm moving in, you know. But as a result, when you have your whole thought process on a fear of something, John and Mary constantly were putting off trips, putting off things because, well, what if things go wrong? Therefore, we can't enjoy today. They put off home projects that they could afford, but were afraid that the mistake would happen. They skipped a dream trip to Italy that should have happened, but yet they were waiting. And then they had these unnecessary restrictions, like everything was being too closely monitored. And I'm a big fan of a budget. I'm a numbers nerd. I do it for a living, right? But at the same time, we save during our working years to spend and do things in our retired years.
Right.
Because of the lack of confidence, they were living as though they were still in saving mode. And that's not what's supposed to happen in retirement. So when we went through and built a plan, we said, hey, we need to start first the idea of how much do you want to live off of? Not need. How much do you want to live? Because there's a lights on number and a lifestyle number. The lights on number is how much you have to pay to keep your house and not have them come repo your car. But then there's this lifestyle number, right? Like, how do we build that? Well, what we did is we went through and we solved for income, made sure that was taken care of, built some cash reserves, accounted for taxes, did all these things. And once we built a full plan, then all of a sudden their fears were eased, because it's not a matter of what happens if the market tanks. We built that in the plan.
Okay.
What happens if the market goes well? That's in the plan. If inflation goes up, that's in the plan. So we went through and solved for a lot of these scenarios. And then eventually they did take their Italy trip guilt free.
Good.
Because they could see it was sustainable.
Right.
But until you see it on the spreadsheet, until you see it on the paper or in the software, it's hard to wrap your mind around the fact, especially if, I always say that the zebra doesn't change its stripes just because it retired, right? If you're a saver, you're a saver. If you're a spender, you're a spender. And we have two different types of meetings. When those come in and they've been saving and working and preserving, now they're retired. And I'm saying, we got to spend some money, and they can't do it. We got to fix that. When you go to these rule of 4% or these big box firms, and they give you just a quarterly statement, and you're going to call a center and you're going to get a generic model, there's no confidence or peace in that, because you're just saying, but what happens if this cuts in half? What happens if the market pulls back out of my $1 million down to $700,000? What do we do? I can't afford to go on that trip to Italy because the market can pull back so quickly that I won't be able to recover. And that's a fair concern, but you don't have to live with it. You can have a strategy that says, based on a personal relationship with someone who is a CFP, who is licensed to talk about all these things, based on having retirement tax specialization, understanding how we're taxed and how I get to keep more of my money, having these ongoing real in-person conversations, not just 800 number set it and forget it big box plans, that creates this tailored advice that blends the math side of it and the life goals side of it. Having an ideal retirement plan that is built for you and your family is the thing. This is what you do. You build a retirement plan that is made for you. It should be enjoyed, not feared. The right plan will balance security and lifestyle. That's what we do at Life Plan Financial. That's what we do here in Grand Rapids for people that live near us, around us. We just want to have the life we've always dreamt of. If that's the type of plan you'd like to see put in place for you, or even just have a conversation as to what it looks like to build one of those plans, give us a call, 616-512-2127, and we can help you get rid of that fear and live a life of confidence. 616-512-2127, or you can reach us at michigansretirementcoach.com.
Mike and his team, they're here to help guide you through this process, because at the end of the day, the goal is that you're going to retire one time. But Mike and his team, they're retiring every single day, or helping folks do that. So they got a wealth of knowledge in their pocket that they're ready to share with you. michigansretirementcoach.com is our website where you can go to start the conversation with Mike and his team, or click on the links we got posted in the show notes.
Thanks for listening to Michigan's Retirement Coach with Mike Douglas. To learn more, visit michigansretirementcoach.com.
Michael Douglas is an investment advisor representative of Stewards Wealth Planning, LLC, a registered investment advisor. Financial professionals are not licensed in all 50 states. To find out if Michael Douglas is licensed in your state, please call 517-323-7526. Stewards Wealth Planning, LLC is not affiliated with nor endorsed by the Social Security Administration or any other government agency and does not provide legal or tax advice. Annuity guarantees rely solely on the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurance company. By contacting us, you may be provided with information about insurance and annuity products offered through Michael B. Douglas, NPN number 9650939.